Okay, this is the step F0 and F1 and F2 for the Ultracruiser build series, starting with the fuselage, which is where you should probably start. Just a quick picture here of the table, what you're going to need. Some spring clamps. You'll need some Clecos, obviously not 10. Maybe 200 is a good number. You can probably get away with 100, but 200 will let you build quite a lot of the assembly before you have to go back and take them out and rivet. They're fairly inexpensive. You can get them from Spruce. You can find them on little kits on Amazon sometimes, pretty reasonable. And they come with pliers with a kit. And if you're like me, end up leaving them everywhere and you can't find them. So it'd be good to have a couple, at least, pliers. You need some number 30 drill bits and some number 1/8 inch drill bits. I like to drill everything when I first put things together with 1/8 inch because the Clecos will fit fine. And then I go back after everything's straight when I like it and I ream everything to the number 30 drill bit, which is 0.128 in diameter. That allows the rivets to fit nice and put together well. Also, we like to use these drywall sanding pads to clean up the back and to deburr. They work really well. So get fine or extra fine ones. Don't get real coarse ones. They'll scratch the material up. But never do the front side. Always only do the side that you want to deburr. For rivet guns, you have some options. You can buy a pneumatic one, a puller, from like Harbor Freight or Spruce or anywhere else. We found these battery operated pullers. This one we get from Amazon. They're quite inexpensive, but they're really nice. They're not quite as fast as the air puller, but you're not dragging a hose over your parts. And it uses the same drill. If you have a DeWalt setup, uses the same batteries. So it works out really well. I think they're less than $100. This one is probably pulled, I don't know, 12,000 rivets maybe, and still working just fine. The new kits come with rivets that you don't need to modify the tip. So you can just use the standard pulling tip that comes out of the box with these. So the new rivets we use are just dome head. We're not forming the rivet head anymore. We don't need to do that. We've got a nice rivet that we supply that doesn't require that. Also probably going to need a tape measure here and there. Not too much, probably. That's pretty much all the tools that you're going to need. Nothing special. You won't need any forming tools particularly to do the project. So some spring clamps, a bunch of Clecos, some number 30 drills, and some number 8 drills work really well. You can get those from Amazon. You can get those from a tool house. You can get them from Spruce. Doesn't really matter. For what we're doing, it's not particularly critical whether they're cobalt or high-speed steel. Doesn't really matter. I will tell you, though, if you're starting to drill and it takes too long, throw the drill bit away and get another one. Because if the drill gets dull on thin aluminum, it'll wander, and then your holes will end up oversized. Or there'll be kind of a hole next to a hole. You kind of get a snowman look. We don't want that. So use a lot of drill bits. They're not that expensive, and just replace them often. I don't sharpen them. I just get rid of them because of the price. It's just not worth it. So that's the tools you're going to need to get going. The manual is here. I talked about this. I will talk about this in all the other videos that are coming, but I want you to kind of take a look at how this works. Let me reposition the camera a little bit. Okay, so each page has got a number in the corner, F0, F1. That's how we're going to talk about them in the video series. So on page F0, this first page, this is the fuselage assembly. This is what you're going to end up with when you're building. Let me reposition the camera here. This is what you're going to end up with when you're done. You're going to end up with this particular page that covers everything. This is the assembly we're working on right now. So there's some notes. Make sure you read through all this stuff. Big thing to do is to only rivet when it tells you to rivet. It's no fun to put in rivets and have to go back and drill them out. So even on this, I don't know if you can see in the image, but when you get your packet, even on here it shows Cleco is still in this assembly, because you're not going to finish riveting this until you move on to something else. In this is the bill of materials, or the list of parts that you're going to need for this. This matches the sheets that we send out for inventory that comes with your kit, so you can match them up. Page F1 gives you a picture of each part so you can find them. I would say 90% of the time or more, we try to write on the part with a magic marker on the backside the part number or the name of the part, or both. Some little parts are tough to do that sometimes, but we also package them per assembly. So your hardware kit comes just for fuselage. So all the hardware for the fuselage comes in one package, so it makes it easier to find. These aren't to scale, obviously, but at least when you look at them, you get an idea of what the parts are you're looking for and what they look like. So you can go through and kind of make sure this is a kind of good way to make sure you have everything you need when we send it to you. Make sure you check your inventory when you get it. We check, and we double check, and we triple check, and we put it in a box. But it's a good idea to make sure you have it anyway. I've had several customers that have indicated they don't have a part, and they kind of look around again and they find it was still wrapped up in some bubble wrap that they didn't notice, or wrapped up in paper that they didn't see. So make sure you unpack carefully and do that. So this is page F1, so there's really no steps to do here. This is just to get you started. So moving ahead here a little bit, we supply this manual to scratch builders too. So if you're a scratch builder, this will be particularly useful to you. If you're not a scratch builder and you're a kit builder, what you're going to find when you open up your box, this tail post assembly, we sometimes call it the banjo assembly because it looks like a banjo. This assembly comes to you totally complete at this point in the kit. That's kind of how we made the kit build quicker and make it a lot easier for you. There's not a lot of complexity here really, but this gets you jump started on your kit much faster. It also allows me to use aviation driven rivets in some of these areas that are a little higher stress, that you don't have to do that. So we do that here. So it's already assembled when it comes to you. One thing you will also notice, if you're a scratch builder, you can still build the horns this way. Kit parts are no longer bolted on with the nut plates. They're solid riveted on. Part of the reason we're able to do that is we're using bushings that are replaceable now. So there's really no reason to bolt these on anymore because you're not going to ever take them off. So what that does is it eliminates nut plates, eliminates the bolts, makes it a little bit lighter, and structurally it's equivalent. We have multiple rivets, and they're aviation rivets in that, so it holds that whole assembly together. So you'll see that's different from the plans to what you're getting. Again, for a stick build person or a scratch build, you can still do it this way, and it's fine. If you get a kit part, it's going to look a little different. So you're not going to see a step F2 in the build series because it's already done for you. Okay. Moving forward, you're going to run into, we're going to start right here at F3, and you're going to start working. So some other general things to keep in mind when you're doing this work, and there's some comments about deburring. Anytime you're drilling through a couple layers of aluminum, you're likely to get chips in between the layers. So be sure you take everything apart between steps. Make sure there's no chips in anything, and deburr the holes. Now, when you deburr the holes, the only kind of deburring we're talking about doing really is scuffing the back of the hole with a little piece of this. Don't take a drill bit and put it in your drill and clean the hole that way with a bigger size drill bit, because what you're doing is you're chamfering the hole, and the material is thin to begin with, and you're going to thin that hole up too much. So don't do that. If you want to take a drill bit in your fingers and just spin it a little bit to knock a burr off, that's perfectly fine, but don't take any material away and don't chamfer the holes, because you will have no material and no strength left over. So don't do that. And also only do it on the back side where it's not visible. because the scratches will show through if you do them on the front side. Okay, so this is a self jigging kit. If you cleco everything together and keep everything straight while you're clecoing, and don't put any weird weight or things on the kit, it'll come out quite straight. General statement: if you're putting something together and none of the holes line up, it's likely that you have something upside down or backwards or left to right. Some parts have hole patterns that are not symmetrical on purpose, so you can't put them on the wrong way. So if you run into that problem and something just isn't fitting or isn't making sense, be sure to reach out to us right away. Easy way to do that is just take a picture of what it is you're working on. Send us an email at sales@hummelaircraft.com. Tell us what you're working on and what the issue is, and we'll get back to you pretty quick. That's the best way. A little photograph goes a really, really long way. So that's going to get you started. If you have any questions, of course, give me a call. Be sure that you only rivet when you're told to in the plans. And be sure that you take your time and make sure you get everything cleaned out. Anything that overlaps, be sure there's no chips in there, because that really degrades the strength of the airplane if the skins aren't tight together. So be sure you do that. Okay. I would also recommend that when you get your kit, open it up, make sure you have what you need to have. Maybe separate the kit by the subassembly if you bought the whole kit. Maybe separate things. We tend not to separate things too much in the crate because our idea is to get it to you as efficiently as possible in a reasonable size crate. So I would do that. And I would also be careful about keeping the parts covered. We've seen several examples of people that have stopped working on a kit for whatever reason, left it in their shop or their garage or whatever. And it gets covered with dirt and dust and whatever else, and it becomes very hard to clean later. So, throw a towel, throw a blanket, throw some plastic over it. If you've got parts that you haven't opened yet, leave them in the round wrapping, or put them on a shelf and cover them with something. Just a good idea to keep everything as clean as possible while you're working. Try not to lay aluminum on the cement if you can avoid it. Just put a piece of cardboard under it or a piece of foam or something, because the moisture in the cement could wick up through and corrode the aluminum. I've seen it. We've seen parts from customers we went to look at, maybe projects that were abandoned. Material was leaning up on a corner on the floor, and the moisture came up through and corroded the bottom of the sheet. So you don't want to do that. And a word about corrosion, and we'll finish this topic. 90% of this airplane is 6061 T6 aluminum, which is more corrosion resistant than 2024. You are welcome, of course, to prime anything you want. Just remember that this is a Part 103 ultralight, and we're like within tiny, tiny fractions of the maximum weight. So adding paint, decals, anything extra that's not in the kit is going to cost you a weight penalty. And that weight penalty could put you over Part 103 weight limits. So if you're in a really corrosive climate and you want to take a can of self-etching primer and prime where things come together, maybe rivets, rivet seams, maybe where a stringer goes on a skin, you could probably do that with minimal weight addition. Priming the whole interior of the airplane, I don't think is necessary. And also it's just going to add weight that you don't want. Same thing goes with painting the outside. Everybody always wants to paint them. You can do that, but it's going to cost you 6 or 7 pounds, which you don't have to work with. So the best way is to keep it clean, polish it up a little bit, and then wax the airplane and leave it. It'll be a lot lighter. And as long as you polish it well and put a good wax on it, the maintenance should be minimal. Okay, so that's step F1, F2, F0, F1, and F2, and that should get you started on your kit.